Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from Dua Lipa, Radical Optimism. You know, I genuinely feel bad for Dua Lipa here. Aside from the fact that it's been longer than I would personally advise to get a new album released since Future Nostalgia, even if she's had consistent crossover radio success in the meantime, her run-up for this has been rough. I mean, Houdini is still a great song, but she's had diminishing returns ever since, and I had the sinking feeling that it would have to be the album making the impact in order to salvage things, and she drops in the middle of a historic beef that has sucked out the oxygen for everything else in the room. But hey, she still did put out that album, and with both Danny L. Harl and Kevin Parker of Tame Impala behind her, there was at least the pedigree for some sort of quality. Houdini proved that. And yet, the more listens I've given to Radical Optimism, the more I'm left a bit perplexed across the board. Not that it's bad at all, but it might not be as effective as it's looking to be, and again, weirdly across the board, which for an artist who is so efficiently controlled, it's an odd sidestep. And we have to start with the sound, where the blazing flare of new disco and 1980s worship has been switched out for something that is absolutely, in my nostalgia window, a very late 90s dance pop with all the acoustic guitars, more slight disco flourishes, especially in the bass lines, the fussy percussion, and the soft focus glittery opulence, in that sweet spot between the boy band wars and 9/11, where I was openly expecting the huge power ballad with the key change and we didn't get it. Now, of course, Dua Lipa is not the first modern pop diva to look to this era with nostalgia. The fact that Carolyn Polachek shares a few co-writers and producers with Dua Lipa and put out Desire, I Want to Turn Into You last year is hard to overlook, especially given some of the lingering sonic parallels across cuts like End of an Era and Maria, plus similar vocal timbres and some overarching ideas. It's not exactly a favorable comparison for Dua Lipa, but I was also reminded of when Lady Gaga made her dance floor throwback with Chromatica and more reliance on big vocal flourishes, ironically in 2020, where compared to Future Nostalgia, it just did not capture that same verve. And it's not like Dua Lipa doesn't commit with some tangible power, but she's considerably less subtle as a vocalist, and that might demand production that has a more distinct driving melody than the elegantly intricate acoustic pop R&B of a song like French Exit. More Max Martin in the mix in comparison with Kevin Parker, who is proving to be a strangely inflexible pop producer, where you fit into his niche rather than the other way around, to say nothing of some wonky overcompression on songs that don't need it, like Anything for Love. Now, what becomes strange is that when you consider this album thematically, going for a sound this breezy and lightly bouncy, it actually makes a lot of sense. Lyrically, this project is careening across dance floor hookups, many fleeting, passionate moments, but few that feel stable or anything built for the long term. And that seems to be what Dua Lipa wants, but can't find someone that'll match her intensity. It is an album built for the summer, but looking past it to the fall. And you know, the title makes some degree of sense in that regard. Dua Lipa seems to have pretty high standards for who she seeks, Jack Harlow being the exception, those who can make it through training season, and as much as the album title has been mocked as Girl Boss Pablum, you kinda need some of that radical optimism to keep on looking if you're just not connecting, or pardon the throwback, you're scared to be lonely. But with an album that's drenched in this summer palette, it's weird how little revelry there is. It seems like Dua Lipa is too efficient to indulge in that. There is confident maturity, but it feels very calculated and meticulous, perhaps to the album's detriment. It leads to a lingering, frustrated tension that underscores an album that's trying to be so breezy and go with the flow, almost undercutting it, especially given how full force Dua Lipa is as a singer. And the odd thing is that I wouldn't even say it's precisely a weakness. In many ways, it's just a different thematic flavor of what was on Future Nostalgia. Perhaps with that album, it just more naturally flattered her strengths. It was more strikingly immediate. And I said at that time that Future Nostalgia is a sidestep from the self-titled debut. And even then, outside of Houdini, I think there are some really great songs here, really potent moments, like the sinuous bass driving across the glitter of Whatcha Doing with that terrific drum switch up on the second verse, or the hazy acoustic shuffle of Maria, or Falling Forever with its huge galloping groove, and probably the most impressive showcase of Dua Lipa's vocals to date. Overall though, I understand why folks would call this Dua Lipa's weakest album coming off of Future Nostalgia if they're not willing to put in the patience for it, especially as Illusion is an outright bad song that's being pushed as a third single. I have really turned on it since Billboard Breakdown. And truth be told, Dua Lipa remains something of an evasive figure as an artist. Very technically polished and near scientific as a pop entertainer, but it might be tough to grasp something that's deeper or more personal, especially when the art is just less immediate. I mean, if you're looking for the summer bops, this album delivered more than I personally thought it would, and there are songs that are gonna sneak up on you, but 3 albums in, she may have a high floor of quality, but a slightly lower ceiling. I'm hearing more subtle variation than evolution. I mean, I'm not gonna call this great, but you know what, I'll lean on the optimistic side. I do think it's quite good. It'll probably play better as the summer rolls around. So yeah, give us a shot. Check it out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, and subscribe. I think I'm going to be winding up a little bit of the minority on this album. I've seen a lot of backlash and a lot of mid-responses to this project, and I'm not sure that's fair. I do think there is a really good vibe here that just requires a little more to sink in, albeit with the comparisons that probably don't place her in the most favorable of light. You can put anyone up alongside Carolyn Polachek. That does not turn out right for you, and really there are some sonic parallels between this and Desire I Want to Turn Into You that aren't favorable. But then again, I said that back with Dua Lipa and Future Nostalgia. The inspirations behind a lot of Dua Lipa's sounds often feel very obvious, and again, that's kind of where the Lady Gaga comparison comes in as well. You could always chart the historical path of the art. But beyond that though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if y'all want to get involved in helping support the channel, or argue with me on my Discord, or help get albums onto my rapidly increasing schedule, link to my Patreon is right over there. Don't feel obligated, but the option is available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.